Throughout this course, you're going to get really familiar with different numbering systems and how to work with them. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover inside this course. This course is going to go over binary, hexadecimal, and octal numbering systems. We're going to kick things off with talking about binary. Before we get too in-depth into binary, I want to give you a general sense of why we use binary numbers. So we're going to cover how computers operate and process information. We'll get into how computers use these binary ones and zeros to represent things like characters and graphics. Once we have a good concept of how computers work, we're going to also take a look at numbering systems. We're going to even take a look at the Roman numeral system and some other numbering systems just so we have an idea of what type of numbering systems are out there. Base 10 is usually what we work with, and you're probably pretty familiar with adding and subtracting and doing all sorts of things with base 10. That's our decimal system. So what we'll do is we're just going to hit some highlights over the decimal system and recall a few things that you might have learned in the past. And we'll take that concept and we'll apply it to things like time. And then we'll take those same concepts and apply it to binary numbers. It's going to give you context as we jump into learning about binary numbers. And we'll do the same thing for hexadecimal and octal formats as well. Then we're going to get into the powers of 2 and how every time we add another bit to our number, we actually double the amount of possibilities that we have, and why we see certain numbers pop up when it comes to computers. Which is one of the reasons why we see 256 a lot and why we use 8 bits and we call it a byte, and we use that for a lot of different scenarios. We'll also get into why we use certain numbering systems, like why do we use decimal, why do we use binary, why do we use hexadecimal, why do we use octal, and certain situations that we'd want to use those in. Then we'll start taking a deeper dive into those binary numbers. We're going to start out by just learning how to count in binary. Although it's not really important that you know how to add in binary, we're also going to talk about adding. It's just going to give a little more context to you working with binary numbers. Then a key factor in this is learning how to convert. How to convert in this case from binary to decimal or from decimal to binary. So we're going to get into how we do these conversions between these different numbering systems. Once we got a great foundation around binary, then we can move on to hexadecimal. We'll go over some of the same concepts with hexadecimal. We'll learn how to count in hexadecimal. We'll learn how to convert from binary to hexadecimal and back from hexadecimal to binary. We're also going to do the same thing with decimal numbers to convert from decimal to hexadecimal and back from hexadecimal to decimal. From there, then we're going to start working with octal numbers and learn more about dealing with octal numbers. We will cover some of the same material with octal numbers, but really just briefly. You don't need to know as in depth about octal numbers, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the highlights of what you need to know and where it really applies to, which is one of the big areas that we use octal numbers is like permissions on Unix systems. So we'll see how to convert from those binary numbers to an octal system so that way we can use it when we're setting permissions on Unix systems. Now, what I will tell you is that this information builds on itself. And what I mean by that is one lesson builds off of the next lesson, builds off of the next lesson. And so really, if you don't have a really solid foundation, you're going to get lost as you go through the material. So I really recommend taking it at a pace that really is going to be beneficial to you. And what I mean by that is that some will breeze through this information and we don't need to spend a lot of time on each of the steps. They just naturally pick it up and it just clicks with them. While other students need to spend more time at the beginning lessons before they work into advanced lessons. I'll also have a lot of hands-on activity to make sure that you really get this stuff down. So take it at a pace that's really going to benefit you. And ultimately, I find a lot of students really love studying this stuff because it's really new information and it's really cool of how it works. And you can think of it as like little puzzles to solve. So I hope you really enjoy going through the course and are able to pick up a lot through it.